My name is Marcus Hale, and for 8 years I was just another quiet owner in Pine Ridge Estates, the kind of HOA-governed suburb where the grass is always manicured to exactly 2.5 inches and dissent is expressed through passive-aggressive notes left on windshields. I bought my mountain house, a modest but sturdy A-frame cabin on 10 wooded acres 2 hours north of the city, back in 2018 as my escape. It wasn't a second investment property in the HOA's eyes. It was my breathing room. Every other weekend from April through October, I'd load the Jeep, kiss the city goodbye, and disappear into pines and silence. The rest of the year, it sat empty, waiting. The trouble started when Karen Whitaker, president of the Pine Ridge Homeowners Association for the last 6 miserable years, decided my cabin constituted an unpermitted commercial short-term rental. Never mind that I never once listed it on Airbnb, VRBO, or anywhere else. Never mind that the only people who ever slept there were me, my sister once, and an old college buddy who crashed on the couch after too much bourbon. Karen had seen the mountain house keys, do not duplicate keychain, I sometimes left dangling from my Jeep's ignition when I washed it in the driveway. To her, those 4 words screamed rental empire. She began her campaign in the spring of 2024. First came the violation letters, printed on pastel mint cardstock with little pine tree clip art. Violation hashtag 24-087. Exterior signage advertising rental services. Keychain visible in vehicle. Fine, $50. I ignored it. Then, the escalation. Violation hashtag 24-112. Unauthorized accessory dwelling unit. Mountain property being operated as transient lodging in violation of Covenant 7.3. Fine, $100 per day. I sent back a polite, notarized letter explaining that the cabin was a personal recreational property 30 miles outside the association's jurisdiction, with its own county tax records, septic permit, and zero connection to Pine Ridge's covenants. I even included aerial photos showing it wasn't even in the same watershed. Karen's response was to call an emergency board meeting, no owners allowed to attend, of course, and pass a new rule retroactively defining any property owned by a Pine Ridge resident is subject to the covenants in spirit. They voted themselves the power to fine up to $500 per violation and place liens after 30 days. I still ignored them. On a crisp Saturday in October 2024, I came home from the cabin to find a Pine Ridge police cruiser idling in front of my house and 2 officers on my porch. Karen stood 50 feet away on the sidewalk, arms crossed, lavender cardigan buttoned to the throat, phone already recording. "Mr. Hale," the taller officer asked, "we received a report of stolen property, specifically keys to a rental unit you're allegedly operating without a business license." I stared at Karen. She lifted her chin like she just won the lottery. "Those keys," I said slowly, pulling the keychain from my pocket so both officers could see it, "are to my private cabin. I've never rented it. Not once. This is harassment." The second officer sighed the sigh of a man who's worked too many HOA calls. "Ma'am," he said to Karen, "do you have evidence this keychain represents stolen or illegally obtained property?" Karen launched into a rehearsed speech about community standards, protecting property values, and how my evasive attitude proved guilt. The officers listened for maybe 90 seconds before the tall one cut her off. "Unless you have a police report, a court order, or proof of theft, this is a civil matter. We're not seizing keys." Karen's face went the color of underripe rhubarb. "You're enabling code violations." "We're leaving," the second officer said. "Have a good day, Mr. Hale." They drove off. Karen stayed planted, glaring. I looked at her and, for the first and only time, spoke directly. "Karen, you just wasted 2 patrol hours and embarrassed yourself on video. Walk away." She didn't. Instead, she filed a formal complaint with the city alleging I'd threatened her. That triggered another visit from a different pair of officers 3 days later. They took my statement, took her statement, watched the body cam footage from the first call, and concluded there was no threat. Case closed. But Karen wasn't done. In December, she convinced the board to place a $2,500 lien on my primary residence for accumulated fines and enforcement costs. The letter arrived certified mail on Christmas Eve. Merry freaking Christmas. That was the moment something in me clicked. Not rage, exactly, but cold, architectural clarity. She wanted to play at law and liens and public shaming? Fine. I'd play too. Only I'd play better. I spent January and February quietly. First, I pulled every single recorded HOA meeting minute, covenant amendment, bylaw change, and financial statement available through public records and our online portal. I discovered 3 interesting things. 1. The board had never properly noticed the in-spirit jurisdictional expansion, missing the state-mandated 30-day comment period. 2. Karen had reimbursed herself $8,400 in administrative fees over 2 years without board approval or receipts. 3. The association's reserve fund was $47,000 underwater because of a special assessment dodge she'd engineered to avoid raising dues before the election she'd just won unopposed. I hired a real estate attorney who specialized in HOA warfare. $300 an hour well spent. We drafted a 38-page demand letter citing chapter and verse of state statute, case law, and the association's own governing documents. We demanded immediate release of the lien, reimbursement of my certified mail and notary costs, $187, a public apology at the next open meeting, rescission of the retroactive jurisdictional rule, an independent audit of the past 3 years' finances. We sent it certified, return receipt, with copies to every board member and to the State Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division. Karen's response? She called another emergency meeting, declared the letter defamatory, and voted to spend $15,000 of association money on an attorney to countersue me for harassment. That was her second mistake, because while she was busy lawyering up, I was already executing Phase 2. Phase 2 didn't involve lawyers or letters. It involved hardware. I'd always been handy, grew up rebuilding carburetors with my dad, so I knew my way around locks, cameras, and basic electronics. The cabin already had a decent security system, cellular-connected cameras, motion lights, keypad deadbolts. But after Karen's police stunt, I decided the keys themselves needed to become her personal nightmare. I designed what I called the look she can't beat. First, I replaced every exterior lock on the cabin with a high-security Medeco cylinder, bump-proof, drill-resistant, restricted keyway. Only 3 keys exist, one on my chain, one in a safe deposit box, one welded inside a steel tube buried under 4 feet of concrete in the backyard. No locksmith in the county can duplicate them without factory authorization. Second, I installed a custom electromagnetic door strike on the main entry, controlled by a Raspberry Pi running a private MQTT server. The Pi talks to my phone over encrypted cellular. If anyone tries to force the door without the correct RFID fob, which I wear on the same keychain, the strike stays locked and a 105 decibel siren sounds while 4 4K cameras simultaneously upload footage to 3 different cloud providers.